1-3. The Whisper in the Dust. Clara Hale had learned early that life didn't announce its turning points with thunder or music. It slipped them in quietly, disguised as ordinary moments, like refilling a sugar jar or wiping a counter at the end of a long shift. At 20 years old, she already felt older than her reflection suggested, not because life had been cruel, but because it had been repetitive, each day blending into the next like dust on the highway outside the diner. The town of Red Hollow sat forgotten between two exits no one used anymore, a place where dreams arrived tired and left even more so. Clara worked the late shift, because it paid a few dollars more and because nights were honest people stopped pretending when the sun went down. She liked the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the smell of burnt coffee, the way the neon sign outside buzzed like it was barely holding on. That night felt the same as every other, until it didn't. The bell above the diner door rang once, sharp and clear, cutting through the low country song playing on the radio. Clara looked up automatically, already reaching for a coffee mug, and that was when she saw him. He didn't look like a man who wandered in by accident. He filled the doorway without trying, tall and broad-shouldered, dust clinging to his boots like it knew where it belonged. His black hat shadowed his face, but his presence alone shifted the room, as if the walls themselves leaned back to make space. A couple of truckers at the counter went quiet. Even the cook glanced up, then looked away. Clara felt it in her chest before her mind caught up. A slow, steady awareness that this man carried weight. Not just money or reputation, but certainty. He walked to the far booth, the one no one liked because it faced the window, and sat down like he owned the night outside. Only then did Clara realize her hand had stopped moving. She forced herself forward, professional, composed, reminding herself he was just another customer. Still, when she set the menu down, her fingers brushed the table, not him, and yet the contact felt charged. He ordered coffee. Just coffee. His voice was calm, deep, and controlled, the kind that didn't need to be loud to be heard. As she poured it, she felt his eyes on her, not wandering, not disrespectful, just steady, like he was reading something written between her breaths. She told herself not to imagine things, but imagination has a way of waking up when it's been bored too long. When she returned to the counter, her heartbeat stayed uneven. She had heard stories about Calder Boone since she was a teenager, how he'd bought land no one else could afford, how he never stayed in town long, how women talked and men measured themselves quietly when his name came up. Clara had never expected to meet him, and certainly not like this, under buzzing lights and the smell of grease. Time stretched. The diner emptied. Outside, the sky darkened into a deep, endless blue. When he finally stood, the movement drew her attention like gravity. He paid in cash, more than enough, and didn't wait for change. As she thanked him, their eyes met fully for the first time. There was no rush in his gaze, no hunger that frightened her, only decision. He stepped closer, not touching, respecting the invisible line she hadn't realized she was holding. Then he leaned in, his voice low enough that only she could hear, steady enough that it didn't tremble. "I want some sugar," he said, the words simple but heavy with meaning. Clara's breath caught. Before she could respond, he added, quieter, deliberate, "So I'm having you tonight." He didn't grab her. He didn't corner her. He waited. In that pause, stretched between fear and curiosity, Clara understood something important. He wasn't taking, he was offering a door and letting her decide whether to open it. If this story is pulling you in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The night is only getting deeper. The choice that lingers. Clara stood frozen for a moment after he stepped back, the warmth of his presence lingering like heat after a flame has passed, her mind racing faster than her body could follow, because nothing in her life had ever been offered with such calm certainty before. Men in Red Hollow usually asked too much or expected too little, their intentions clumsy and loud, but Calder Boone had done neither. He had spoken as if the night itself had already agreed, and yet he waited, giving her space to breathe, to think, to choose. She told herself she could say no. Nothing was stopping her. Not the walls of the diner, not his wealth, not his reputation, but when she looked at him again, she didn't see danger in his eyes, only patience sharpened by experience. The bell on the door hummed softly in the silence between them, and Clara realized how quiet the diner had become, as if the building itself was holding its breath. "I close in 10 minutes," she heard herself say, the words surprising her as much as they seemed to satisfy him. Calder nodded once, slow and respectful, like a man acknowledging a contract made of trust rather than ink. He didn't smile. He didn't press. He simply tipped his hat and walked out into the night, leaving behind the faint scent of dust and leather and a folded napkin on the counter. Clara didn't touch it right away. She finished her shift on autopilot, wiping tables she'd already cleaned, stacking cups that didn't need stacking, her thoughts circling the moment over and over again. Not the words, but the way he had waited. When she finally unfolded the napkin, the address written there wasn't a hotel or a bar. It was land open and honest, far from town, where secrets didn't echo off walls. The drive out felt longer than it was, the road stretching ahead like a question she was finally brave enough to answer. The house appeared slowly, lights low, standing alone against the vast dark like it belonged exactly where it was. Calder met her at the door. Not surprised, not triumphant, just steady. He asked her inside, not as a command, but as an invitation, and when she crossed the threshold, Clara felt the weight of her old life settle behind her like a coat she no longer needed. They talked first, about nothing and everything, about the diner, about the land, about loneliness that didn't beg for pity but demanded honesty. When his hand finally brushed hers, it was unhurried, asking without words. And when she stayed, when she didn't pull away, the night seemed to deepen around them, not rushing, not claiming, only unfolding. Clara understood then that this wasn't about sugar or power or wealth. It was about being seen, about choosing to step into something unknown with her eyes open. And somewhere between the quiet of the room and the wide silence outside, she realized she wasn't losing herself. She was meeting herself for the first time. If this story keeps you listening, subscribe to the channel for more dark, slow-burn stories where every choice matters.